and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on CageMatch.net. I'm your host, STRIGGA, as always joined by Dylan. We are back to talk about some Yoshi, some Noah, and some New Japan pro wrestling. Dylan, how are you feeling right now?
Well, I'm really happy to be here talking to you, and shout out to all the listeners out there as always. Always the best part of everything. We did an episode, we were off for a little while there, but we told you we weren't going to be gone that long this time.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff actually happened, in the last few days. So we're back again. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. If you like what you're hearing, check us out on Spotify. Give us those 5-star reviews. We'd really appreciate that. That helps the show, gets people, new listeners at it. YouTube, check us out on there. We always get nice comments on there, people giving their thoughts and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling, which we also love. As much as we love if we were the only two people here, I would still love just talking to you about it, Strigga.
Absolutely, yes.
But the great thing is all these other people do too.
That is great. That is definitely great. And I feel like most of our conversations, most of our shows actually are like that we just sit down and figure out, okay, that's the wrestling we want to talk about, and that's what we're going to do.
Oh, absolutely. If anybody's wondering, there really is no the
I
least
have no
produced.
Notes. No.
Yeah.
Zero.
Unquestionably, the least produced show in all of wrestling podcasting, and for the better. Whenever anybody comes on with me, they've done their other show, like Jess, who debuted her Jumping Knee Pod, got her first episode out just recently. So shout out to her and the show. But when she came on my show, it was a totally different vibe than her normal style, because I was just like, well, we're doing the show. Here's what we're talking about. And to anyone else, they would expect her and probably many others, they would expect a lot of, go behind and stuff. But it makes it more fun that way, because we don't know what we're going to say. We don't know where we're going with anything. Sometimes things just, delve off into their own little world. And that's true both on this show and off of this show for me. Sometimes I just talk to myself for no reason, and I just go where my mind leads me.
That is actually very healthy. I read, and then that is how I'm handling myself too. So good for the two of us.
Confirmation bias in action from Strigga here.
Oh well, let's see where the confirmation bias leads us here with the topics we had. Just like I said, we are going to talk Yoshi, of course. We are going to talk about the Marigold debut show, Marigold Fields Forever. We are also going to talk about the Hana Kimura Memorial show. Of course, Hana Kimura, the fourth anniversary of her passing was this past week, and if you are a long-time listener to the show, you know how much Hana meant to this show. To me specifically was because I was a huge fan, and we talked about her memorial shows in the last couple of years, and we also did basically an obituary episode when she passed. Yeah. A very tough episode to do, but it also helped us cope with the situation, I think. And whenever the anniversary of her death comes up, all the fans thinking about her, posting pictures, posting art online really helps me to get through this day or these days. And I hope that her mother, Kyoko, can also find peace with the people that surround her and help her produce the show every year. So that is, it's very helpful for all parts involved.
Absolutely. And that's why we were really proud to induct her in the first class of our Hall of Fame at the end of the year last year. So that was really a great tribute there. And like we said on the show when I was talking about it, I really hope that the great thing about these shows, and what you said is so true about all the people online just posting memories and stuff, is that she can be remembered for so much more than how it all ended, because she had such a full life for everything that she brought to the table. And that's why we're having these shows, and she was so special to so many people. And that's kind of the main thing at this point for this fourth edition. The Terima Kashi show was it just, a lot of these people on the show all of them were her friends and people that she touched and impacted in some way. And obviously, I totally agree with you about Kyoko. I wish nothing but the world for that woman and all that she's done to be the best mother she can. Even after Hana's passing, she still shows all the time how much she loves Hana. And I think that's such a great thing.
Always one of the greatest bits when they do the show, when she shows Hana's cat into the camera. That is always a great bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're going to talk about the show in a bit here. We're also going to talk about the Noah Korakuen Hall show, One Night Dream 2. So that's actually the second dream. And, of course, we're going to talk about the New Japan Pro Wrestling Best of the Super Junior. Basically, it's halftime right now, Dylan. And,
yeah.
We'll see where we stand on this tournament.
When will this end? What are you thinking? That's
okay,
what
now you know where we stand on this tournament. Well, yes. Okay, let's first go to Marigold. Dylan, the show was in front of a sold-out Korakuen Hall, and a sold-out Korakuen Hall isn't the norm in these days right now, with the yen being so weak and of course, tickets being very expensive in Japan still. But this show had 1,535 fans in attendance. It aired live on Wrestle Universe on the 20th. And it started out with the presentation of the entire roster. And I got to say, I really liked that because it put over the wrestlers, specifically those that came new into the promotion from Actress Girls, as certified stars for the company. So you had everybody come down the stairs in Korakuen, people cheering, people holding out their hands to get a high five from the wrestlers. So that was a very, very good start to this new promotion, presenting this new roster, showing everybody who is in the group, and from there on, starting the show.
When you saw this, I totally agree with you. I thought that was a really cool start. I think that's something that really made this show kind of stand out, was a lot of the way they produced it, like the way they shot it. I thought they really did a great job. After one show, and really even after this one segment, it was already there, they've established that there's levels to this in the Joshi world, and they're at a different one than a lot of other companies. And we talked about it before. I was a little skeptical of them starting this at this particular time because of all the reasons you mentioned and how things were a little down right now, not just the economy, but specifically in the Joshi scene. Even Stardom isn't exactly lighting the world on fire right now. So it was a little bit of a rough time on paper, but you saw this opening, you see where they're going ahead, and you see a lot of how they made this look. It definitely felt like a big show. When it comes to the opening segment in and of itself, who did you think came across like the biggest star of them walking out of the crowd?
I think from the level she came into the promotion and gaining most from this, I think, was probably Miku Aono. I thought she came across very likable when she came
And that
out.
was after the show.
What do you mean?
I'm saying, do you mean like after her match or just like after the opening segment?
After the opening.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, she was very good. I noted that they actually had. I thought Mirai got a great reaction.
Yes,
she's got a great look right now. She's totally redone her look, gone back to the blue. I wasn't a big fan of her look that she had like last year with the orange and all of that. She still has a little bit of that in her hair, but she brought the blue back, and her new gear looks great. She's worked hard on her body. She's in great shape. And she got a big reaction, but I did notice that they actually had Nanai come out after Mirai, so she got a spot in the top 3. Utami, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Like, what is the deal with her obsession with this tongue piercing that she has? Like, she stuck her tongue out to show this thing like 5 times in the opening.
Maybe that's a gimmick.
And I saw, apparently everyone loves it. Maybe it's a Japan thing that I don't fully understand, because there was one of the Joshi wrestlers I saw in an interview where they mentioned that she thought Utami was the coolest one, and she was so impressed by the tongue piercing. And I was like, it's not that great to me. Maybe I'm crazy on this, but it didn't impress me. And Julia, I mean, she got lost on her entrance. She literally got lost on the way to the ring somehow. And
this woman has just not competed in Korakuen Hall very often.
I mean, she's just not used to this new
Yes.
look. I mean, she's like so routine from her regular entrance that any deviation, it's like a new building to her. But yeah, I thought Mirai came across the best because the top two came across really goofy, in my opinion. But it was a great opening segment, in all honesty, though.
And on the topic of producing the show, Dylan, that you mentioned, they started out with 3 consecutive singles matches, and I liked all of them. And what made these matches so special was that the ending for each match was completely different from the other one that came before. So you had Nanae Takahashi going over Victoria Yuzuki in a very clear patterned match with the veteran going against the rookie, the veteran being dominant here. It was a little long, I thought, for the opening contest, but Yuzuki got to stand out here with some of the hope spots that she got, and in the end, she didn't want to give the handshake to Nanae, and Nanae kicked her out of the ring, said, "You're not ready right now." It was a good start for this promotion for the first match, I thought. Then you had Miku Aono go over now Ishikawa with a clear idea that these two don't like each other. And in the end, it was very much stated that now Ishikawa is very devastated because she lost to Aono, and they are still not anywhere close to each other. And in comparison to that, completely different, the ending of the Mirai and Shiaki match was that these two really went hard with one another. And I don't know, Dylan, I don't know about you, but I thought this was the best match of the show, actually. Mirai and Shiaki. Yeah, I really liked the match.
Hot take, but I don't think that's too wrong because I thought I was going to be the hot take guy on the show. But
no, I really liked the match. I really liked the power aspect of the match, and I think these two mirror each other very well. And the ending of the match, completely different from the first 2 matches because they shook hands and basically telling you that there might be a future tag team between the two coming. So that was a very, very good start of the show.
Which is a great idea, by the way. I think they're a really good fit together.
Yeah.
Stylistically, if they want to form a team. So my take on the first 3 matches, I thought the first match was actually pretty disappointing because Yuzuki had been basically the blue chip prospect of the rookie class she was in, and she's still very new. Let's keep in mind, just debuted at the end of last year, but won the rookie tournament. Looked like she was going to be one of the Stardom like future top players. And Nana is like one of the best at these veteran versus rookie matches. But Yuzuki, I don't know if it was nerves or what happened. She blew a couple of spots. Yeah. Especially her big one at the top. She messed up a little bit.
I thought that they did that very well, that she came off the ropes and Nana basically acted as if she had pulled her down.
Yeah.
I thought they
Nana's great.
Well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Nanae Takahashi, and I think that the more she does here, and don't get me wrong, Yuzuki's still got a great future, but for sure. I liked her attire, too. She's got the orange look, that kind of blends into the logo. They're kind of telling you, like, okay, she's like our diamond, for the future, which I think is a great role for her. Of the 2 other matches, I liked them very similarly, but for different reasons. I thought, of all the actress girls who came in, because there was going to be a big spotlight on them, to me, the one that impressed me the most was pretty obvious to me, was Aono. Now, I liked that if you put me, grade the match overall, I liked the Mirai and Shiaki match better. But in that match, I felt like they were similar, but Mirai was clearly steps ahead of Shiaki. And the crowd loved Mirai on this show for whatever reason. She got one of the biggest reactions. Streamers, all that stuff, which is very cool. I love seeing the streamers again. I wish they would do that on every show. I think any old school ProRes fan would agree with me on that. I'm not saying anything revolutionary here. We need the streamers back in. But Mirai got a ton of them. It was great. Aono, I thought, was actually the better part of her match with Ishikawa and helped her get to a good level there. And they had history in their match, too. I mean, they worked together in Ice Ribbon. Yeah, a few years ago at this point. I can't believe, time flies in these situations.
Yeah. Was it 2019, 2018? When was it, actually?
Yeah, 2019, 2020, maybe?
Well, they were actually not tag team champions.
No, but they were a team.
They were a team, yeah.
Yeah. But there was a lot going on back in those days with Ice Ribbon. But I thought Aldo looked really good, and I love she has a certain swag that a lot of the others don't. I think she carries herself really well. I would say, even though like I said, when I watched Actors Girls, I wasn't like a super huge follower or anything like that. But I did think that she wasn't the absolute best on her roster. But I did think here on this show, she made the biggest impression upon me. But Chiaki also made a great impression in her match because I thought her and Mirai worked together so well. And everything you said was so true, and I totally agree. I love the finish and the tag the tag team tease that they have. I think it's great. That's one of the things I want to see going forward. I'll kind of say it at the end of the show. But for them to set things up for the future is so important. And I think they did a pretty decent job of that. And most importantly, though, Mirai got a wonderful prize for winning this match.
Yeah, well, what was it actually?
It was like candy. Right? It was like candy corn.
Candy. Yeah. Yes, candy corn. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Which she's very generous with, as we expect. And unfortunately for many people, yet again, they have to realize the unfortunate truth that Mirai haters continue to be in the mud. Will they ever get out? Whatever company she goes to, she keeps impressing STRIGGA, saying that she had the best match on the show. The fans loved her. The streamers coming around. She gets the candy corn. What more can you want from this woman?
Well, there you go. That's it. Yeah, I mean, Chiaki looked good in this match.
Yeah, she did too.
I agree with you that Miku Ano stood out there in her performance against Now. What did not stand out was the following match with Mai Sakurai and Zeta Steel against Myla Grace and Nagisa Nosaki in a time limit draw, 50 minutes. It was not a good idea to have this end in a time limit draw. This went way too long, way over, especially Zeta Steel's level right now. I mean, Morbo said it on Straight Wrestling. He reviewed the show with Flosh there on Cage Match. You can listen to that in German. Zeta Steel, she's very new to wrestling. She only debuted in 2022. This was her first exposure to Japan. Putting her in a match like this probably was not a good idea. But on the other hand, you had Mai Sakurai, who has been wrestling for 4 years, and of course Nagisa Nosaki has been wrestling for a long time. So you'd expect that Myla Grace, also 5 years into the business, you'd expect that they would get some sort of idea to put this match together, but at numerous times this really did not work out and was not a good match at any point, really.
It was bad. Like, there's no great way to say it. Nozaki, I think that she's by far has the best pedigree of the four. I mean, Sakurai, yes, she's wrestled for a few years, but she's much more. The way that she was able to stand out in Stardom, if you didn't see her work there, she really got over being a character, with the royalty gimmick that she had. Like, that really got her over. Not really her wrestling at all. She was probably one of the worst on the roster, to be honest. But she was smart enough to find a way to get over, and I appreciate that. But if she is the one having to turn the match around, then we're in big trouble, people. And we saw that in this tag match, unfortunately. And Ozaki, she's somebody who, she was around when I first started watching, and she had I thought she was like a talented up and coming person. She was in that new classic Tajiri's deal, Smash and all that. She had an injury. She took a few years off, and when she got back, I was like, man, Nozaki, she's a little rough right now. She isn't as good as she used to be, but she worked really hard and actually got to the point where she was a legit great champion for Wave for a few years. I really appreciate. I really grown to appreciate her. So I don't blame her for this. I think it was a rough spot, And I mean, listen, whatever we want to say about them, they are going full speed ahead with this because they booked Zeta and Myla one-on-one on the next show, so they want to make us suffer more, apparently, Rossy. What did we do to deserve this? Maybe he's heard some of these people online talking about him, and this is his payback, I think, on some people.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
Yeah, it's not going to be great, but, like you said, these girls, I mean, and yeah, it sounds good. I wrestled 4 or 5 years, but, Myla, who has she wrestled? Yeah. I wrestled that long. Right? That's like Jamie Dundee's not teaching me
less than 100 matches actually on her career. Yeah.
And I'm not hating on these people,
no.
but they're
what it is.
And I mean, hey, what are you gonna do if you're in their shoes? They're gonna say, "Oh, you get to go to Japan, probably live one of your dreams."
Man, you take them.
Oh, yeah, hell no, I'm not doing that. Like, no, of course, they just sold out show, like where you get a chance to stand out. I'm rooting for these girls. I hope that they impress and can really turn some heads.
We've seen similar situations in Stardom where wrestlers came in very green and developed to be much better eventually over time when they wrestled more. Situation though is with Marigold, we don't really know how this schedule is going to look like at the end of the year, how many shows they are going to have. I don't think they've announced this full schedule yet, have they?
No, they just announced up to the sumo show. Right? We're going to talk about it at the end. But that was a point I was about to make, or I was going to make at the end. We have to remember, like, yes, Rossy's involved in Fuka and Nanai and all that.
Yes, absolutely.
But this, what I'm saying, though, is this company, and it was proven by this show, in my opinion, this is not Stardom. Like in terms of the roster quality.
Correct.
It's not even close. So we have to kind of keep our expectations a little bit in check here. Although, I mean, we'll talk about it. I mean, this show was highly well received, for sure. But I think we have to kind of keep that in mind, that they're still starting off, We can't have them, we can't think about them like, the company that had the All-Star Reign Queendom last year in April. They're on a different level right now, and maybe they'll overtake everything and grow into that place again. But right now, we have to take them for what they are. And I think that we have to keep that in mind with a lot of these youngsters, and hopefully they do pay off. Which, again, I will remind everybody, if you compare it to peak Stardom, that's how you feel. But if you compare it to Stardom of 11, 12 years ago...
Yeah, I was just going to say 2014 Stardom.
Yeah, and they even brought in, I mean, look at some of the names they brought in, a lot of the foreign talent and stuff back then. Like, they're following a similar playbook, like Rossy is to what he did there. So it's not like he's doing anything out of the ordinary, and the hope is that we're going to see some people grow and step into those roles, and there's no reason to think that they won't be able to.
Yep, true. The semi-main of that show had also 4 wrestlers coming into this promotion, fairly unknown from the Actress Girls promotion. Well, of course, Suzuki has been in Stardom before.
Yeah.
This match, though, made the least impression on me from all the matches on the show. It was okay, but I don't think that anyone in this match really stood out.
Nah, and to me, Suzuki was the best worker of Actress Girls coming in, but this wasn't really the best spot for her to really show out. Like you said, really nothing special match, nothing bad about it, but it wasn't anything. Well, like I said, I thought the singles matches were much more effective. Of getting these new actress talents over. This one, it was like, nobody really stood out.
But nothing, Dylan, was more effective on this show than the main event. Bloody hell. Bozilla walking into this promotion. She was the third of the foreigners that was announced for this show, and really nobody had any idea how good she was. And I didn't either, because I've never seen her before. I mean, she has been wrestling since 2022, but not for any promotion that I usually follow in Germany. I usually follow WXW and the German Wrestling Federation, and both companies. Well, GWF still has a women's title. WXW does not, so I don't get to see a lot of women's wrestling in the places that I go. So I've not seen her wrestle, actually. So I was as new to her as anyone watching this show, and I thought they structured this match so incredibly well that she was able to shine in the situations that she was going to, and all the spots that she got, they hit perfectly. And you want to say about her that she's new and green, of course, yes, but being put in such a high-pressure situation, being in the main event of a new promotion in Japan, wrestling your first match in front of a crowd like this, and then not blowing any of your spots, unlike, much like you said in the opener, Suzuki, that is a big, big plus for Bozilla. And her power spots, they were so over with the crowd. She had a great tag team partner with Sari, and of course great opponents with Julia and Utami Hayashishita. What a performance that was.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they hit a grand slam with Bozilla. whoever made the call to bring her in, recruited her, or however they came to get her in this promotion.
This has to be. I'm actually sure about that. That was a call from Jessie Gabbard, also known as Alpha Female, of course.
Yeah, Alpha Female. Yeah.
She wrestled for Alpha Female's promotion in Germany for serious wrestling. So I'm sure that Rossy and Jessie connected there to bring Bozilla to Japan.
Yeah, Alpha Female, former red belt champion in the early days of Stardom as well. So great call from Jazzy, and great call for Marigold to get her in, because I mean she was like the star to me, like of this match with like a bunch of amazing talents. But when she came in, there was just a lot, like a different energy that she had. And I kind of said this, and I kind of alluded to this earlier on the show, and I've actually been saying it for a little while now about these two. I really feel like Julia and Utami have really lost a lot of aura, like over the last year or so.
You're actually correct. Yeah, I still think that Julia has more than Utami.
Yeah, I agree with that. Utami was like by far the fourth person of this match. The Julia and Sari segments here, there was like, and it kind of got justified because I did a show on the Patreon, patreon.com/Eastern Lariat about this show, and I said on that show, I thought, I don't want to say overrated. Like, you know, you look at the ratings of Cage Match and like a lot of the reaction when it happened. But I thought when I saw these two, there was parts where I was like, oh, sorry, Julia, this is my wrestling, like the headbutts and the big bombs and the suplex. But there was actually a lot of the time, I mean, this was almost a 30-minute match. There was also a lot of times where I felt they really held back a little bit. It slowed it down. And obviously we came to find out about Julia's wrist injury afterwards, which really justifies my comments at the time. I didn't know that when I said that. But I just thought they were really holding off for the singles match. And I was like, with this, this is another thing we need to point out. We haven't mentioned yet. The crowd was the real MVPs of the show. You did not hear a crowd like this in Stardom at any point in the last 3 years.
And there I want to pick up on your point of starting a promotion right now.
Yeah.
So, of course, face value, it's not a good idea to start a promotion right now. But if you start a promotion like this on your first show and you get off the ground hot, with these singles matches that you provided, and with the tag team match here in the main event. So you started off great, and you finished great. And the buzz for the show, not only in Japan, but internationally, just like you said, was extremely high. So coming off of that show, I think they have a lot of new fans, and they have a lot of goodwill from the crowd stemming from this first show. So even if in Shinkiba, let's say this Zeta Steel and Myla Grace match bombs, I still think they will have lots of goodwill just from this first impression that they made.
And I mean, in all honesty, like that's not even a big difference maker. I mean, I think most people expect you to try new things, and not all new people are going to get over at the end of the day. Even in the original Stardom, there's people that came in and they didn't last. You know, at the
they
end
were
of the
gone
day.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not, and I'm not saying that that's these two's fate, like they have a chance to change it, but I would say to your overall point, like with this show, and really with the number that they drew, but especially the passion that the fans had, which I think nobody could have expected at this level. I mean, like I said, I did have my skepticism, but they proved me wrong with this show so far, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, one show, it's not like they're suddenly the number one like in the country just after one show, but it was a great first step. Like, there's no doubt about that. And to me, and my overall point, Bozilla, awesome. Julia and Sari, like I said, there were certain parts that I didn't love. I felt they were holding back. But Julia was injured. No big deal, really. Most part, when they have a singles match, I was feeling like, damn, if this happens in front of a crowd, if Sumo Hall can get a crowd like this and they go one-on-one, this could be a classic, brother. That type of deal. Utami, she'll find her way back. A very talented wrestler, obviously, in general. But, they needed somebody like a Bozilla that had that aura to her. Like, as soon as she walked out, like, she felt special, and the only fear is that she's so great that, like, these American companies are going to be like, damn.
Yes.
Like, we got to get Bozilla on our shows. Like, like she could be like a Goldberg type of person, like if they played their cards right. And they already teased her going for the red belt, which, that's another point we should make. These belts that Marigold came out with these belts are awesome. Like whoever designed that.
The belts look great.
Yeah. Way Major League.
Yes. The idea of going for the red and white belt, of course, was going to happen with Rossy Ogawa. I don't know. I think it's really petty, but what you going to do?
Well, I mean, that goes back a bazillion years in Joshi wrestling.
I know.
You know, but these belts, like, I mean, the starter belts, they're all right. Like, just in terms of design, like, not about history or anything like that. But these look like, man, it looks like a treasure to hold these belts. It's so good. And we haven't seen the Twin Stars or anything like that, so we'll see what their designs are. But home run swing on that. And ultimately, that's kind of my feelings on this show, ultimately. And this may sound like
one more topic here on the belts, Dylan. Yeah. I would have loved if they had gone more into the direction of the flower theme with the belts. They look great, but I don't really think that the idea of the flowers is really encapsulated in them.
Yeah, I do agree on that, but I actually don't like the starter belts for that reason, that they're so gimmicky. Like, I think...
I mean, you could do a lot with flowers. I mean, with stars, you're very limited, you know?
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. But I like, this feels like a real championship, though, like these that they have. You know, and I'm a big fan of the old school. I mean, these belts, if you just compare them to the WWWA titles... These are way better in design. Like, just these look amazing. I'm totally 100% in agreement with Marigold and whoever made the belts. But maybe they could have put something actually on the straps. Maybe something, you know, like a rose stem or something like that. You know, like I see where you're coming from a little bit on there. But I loved them when I saw these. I was like, damn, these belts are good. Like these are some of the best belts in any company to me. Like if you were to grade them 1-on-1 for pure design. I can't think of one that I really like better than these, to be honest with you.
Yeah, IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, clearly.
I mean, I don't hate that design-wise because it pays homage to like the third generation belt, which I think is kind of cool. But it's not as good as these. Like I'll tell you that right now. But one more thing on the belts that happened on the show. What I was going to say, they've already kind of teased Bozilla going for the red belt here with her. I didn't like how they did that, though. Like, why did they give Julia and Utami the belts, like, right away? You know, I thought that was kind of, I thought it was kind of cheesy. It was, like, easily to set up this angle. Like, okay, Julia, sorry. You know, you didn't need to do that with the belts. But I do like the idea of Bozilla going for the belts, and I think that's a good 1-2 punch, you know, that you could have for the big show. These two singles matches, and we have to hope that Julia will be okay and healed by then, obviously. But that, and then the visual afterwards where they talked about the flowers, you know, they had the video, and they gave Aono, it's clear that they see a lot in her, too, because she got a big part of the video, like announcing the Sumo Hall show, which, I mean, July 13th, man. That's pretty fast. But to wrap up my feelings on this show, I thought this was like a 10 out of 10 vibes show.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
The crowd was amazing. The fans were going crazy. Like you said, even on like Twitter on the English speaking side, everybody loved it. I don't think this was a great wrestling show. Like if you just look at the matches, I don't think there was any great match of the four, to be honest with you. I thought they were, outside of the tag match we talked about, and the opener, I would say, were below average in what they wanted to accomplish. Everything was solid, and the main event was good. I wouldn't say it was great, in my opinion. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I thought they had better in them.
I don't think that's a hot take, but this show shows how well they are in putting together a complete show from top to bottom. And I think that's worth a lot. To a lot of people. To me, it is. I'm known for being someone that values a full, complete show with different matches, different outcomes, different wrestling on that, for that matter. So for me, this was a very good debut show, definitely. And you said it's a vibes show. The vibe was great. So off to a hot start for Marigold.
Yeah, they accomplished everything they wanted. The commentary was good, too. Stu Fulton and Sonny Gutierrez.
Right.
You know, Stu was obviously like one of the best to me on commentary in Japan. Sonny's not as polished as Stu Fulton, but he had a lot of information, and he probably worked with all.
Yeah, there was his role. Yeah, there was his role for that matter. So
they were. Yeah, they were a good team for the first start. So every part of the show was really for what they wanted to accomplish. This was it couldn't have gone better. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the main event be a match of the year level match, and to some people I know felt like that. But for me, I didn't think it was. I think if they have Sari versus Julia in a singles match, that's going to blow away this tag. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I think that could be a really great match.
Yeah. So they have 19 shows until Sumo Hall. First is the Marigold Grand Opening Wars Tour, starting in Shinkiba with a double shot. And the cards both have 5 matches. The first one has Koki Amare and versus Naoya Ishikawa, Myla Grace versus Zeta Steel, Miku Ono and Notsumi Shozuki versus Misa Matsue and Chiaki, Utami Hayashishita and Victoria Suzuki versus Nanae Takahashi and Bozilla. That's the tag team that I'm looking for, because put Bozilla in the dojo with Nanae Takahashi, have her learn from Nanae, and she's going to be better very, very quickly.
Oh, absolutely. Nanae is such a great addition to the roster just to have for that reason. Yes. Totally agree.
And the main event on that show is a great-looking match with Mirai and Mai Sakurai against Sari and Nagisa Nosaki. Second show, it's Miku Ono versus Zeta Steel. Then a passion injection match. Dylan, Nanae Takahashi versus Naoya Ishikawa. So maybe now, after 2 losses, maybe she loses against Amare, she needs more passion injected to her from Nanae.
They call all of Nanae's matches that, Miracle Passion. So it's they're all like that. Even the Yuzuki match was a passion.
Oh, yeah, that's correct. Okay. Yeah. Mirai and Chiaki. There we go. Tag team versus Nagisa Nozaki and Bozilla. 3-way match, Mai Sakurai versus Misa Matsue versus Myla Grace. And in the main event of that show, Natsumi Shozuki and Victoria Suzuki versus Utami Hayashishita and Koki Amare. Of course, Julia is out. Would have been on that cards. We'll have to wait and see how long that takes for her to heal up for her broken wrist. She is announced to face Sari at the Sumo Hall show for Marigold Summer Destiny 2024. We've discussed that before the show a bit, Dylan. What could they have up their sleeves for a big show like that very early on in their history?
Yeah, I can't, because on paper, I just thought this was really fast, to do a Sumo Hall show so fast like that. And I think one thing I do like, and I think Julia might be the best example of this, from the opening segment, I got this vibe, and I think everything you've seen in the media, I get this vibe as well. To these women that are on this roster, being a part of this new Rossy promotion is very meaningful to them. Yeah. They're super hyped to be a part of this, and they think this could be the top, I mean, I don't know if they think this or what they think, but, they feel like at least they think this could be the top Joshi promotion, at some point. And Rossy, he has a history of it. They're making moves for it. It was such a shame about Julia's injury because she got taken out of the Hana show in the main event, which I know was a big deal for her.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the day. But it
just was not the same. That was really sad to go a bit here to that main event. It just did not come across like it would have been if Julia had been in this match.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I know she would have poured her heart out in that ring if she were there. In wrestling, she was there, but just wrestling. But it said that her injury, it's not gonna ruin her career or anything. She seems to be taking it in stride with everything we've seen come out publicly. So I expect her to be in that Sumo Hall show.
Oh, she's surely going to wrestle in that match.
Yeah, and that's really the main thing. These shows, by the way, those 2 shows you mentioned, they are on Wrestle Update, Wrestle Universe.
Live streaming on Wrestle Update.
Yeah, but no, on Wrestle Universe, they're both on there. That's a big thing. To have, their shows on there very consistently. Because we've seen some of these other promotions, they might have a show on there, but it's not consistent.
Sendai Girls is consistent right now.
Yeah, but they are stepping up too on there. And you hope that can continue. On there.
Absolutely, I love Sendai Girls.
Yeah, Sendai. I mean, O-Pro, that 0-1 thing they brought in. You don't want to. You want to be consistent. That's a big goal for these things. So I love seeing all the new shows on Wrestle Universe. They've got them home, and these are basically house shows. But when we get to that Sumo Hall show, I mean, they're going to need something. And I kind of figured that Rossy has some sort of plan of some sort. you look around the scene right now,
Mm-hmm.
who could they bring in that would be like a Sumo Hall level big attraction?
There has been this interview that came out just today as we're recording this on the 25th of May, where Rossy Ogawa was quoted saying that in December he had a discussion with Triple H. And it looks like that he is looking for help in setting up this new promotion. Of course, Julia's still there, and it could also be that he's looking for assistance from WWE to get stars on this show. And of course, when we look at the history of Rossy Ogawa and WWE, we can always look at Io Sky and Kairi maybe being there for one night only, coming back to Japan to boost numbers for Marigold. That could be something.
Yeah, that's what I said on there, and I said it even on the Patreon show, that I figured that would be the logical thing that you would expect next. Because as I said, look at this scene. Who in Japan would be like an oh crap difference maker? Like,
There is no bigger match that you can do than Sari and Julia, I think, with the talent available.
Yeah, exactly. And even then, I like I said, I really think Julia's lost a lot in the last year. Sari's done good on her level. I mean, she's a great wrestler. Like her ability is not in question at all. She's probably the best in any Joshi, in my opinion, any Joshi promotion or wherever she wants to work. But I don't know. That doesn't strike me as like we could do a huge success like with these two in the main event. And maybe they can, maybe they'll have a big show. Sari's not really tested at that level as like a main event attraction overall. Julia obviously had her run last year, which was main eventing the biggest show in start of history. So you cannot take that away from her, even though I think they really didn't do justice to a lot of people in the company last year. But besides that, though, I think you need something else, like at the end of the day, like a big attraction match. And I do think that the people, one of these WWE women, I mean, they've got people that you can look at. Like, I don't know, would they even be interested? I mean, like Io, if she came back to Japan, hypothetically, that would be a big deal, obviously. Kairi was there last year, and really, I personally thought her run was kind of underrated by some people. Like, a lot of people were really hard on her in-ring. I thought she did really good, actually, for a lot of it. Whether it was the trios, she had the great match with Mercedes in America. I liked her run. It's just difference maker, if we're being honest, in Stardom at all. Io, I think, would, because it's been so long, I think that would get some, that would at least get curiosity. To see what she's going to do. And so I think she's kind of like the golden goose. That maybe if they brought in Asuka, like WWE Asuka, that would be crazy, if that could happen. But I think that would be meaningful at the time as well, because she is if you look on their Twitter's a lot, like the WWE people from Japan, they are always mentioning Abima a lot in there, trying to plug it and stuff. So they clearly have, the wrestlers there at least are clearly told to have an eye on that. And you could see something like that with Io. I think she would be the best get that you could have on there. And Kairi as a wrestler, I love her, that she would have a great match. But I think Io is the diamond if you want to get.
With the Wrestle Universe Alliance, Dylan, and this being a big show, could you see that there could be a offer match from Noah or from DDT?
It wouldn't be the worst idea. I mean, hey, even in the if you guys have followed Zenjo, All Japan Women, they used to have guys wrestle on their shows in the undercard and stuff like that. You had Michinoku Pro matches, Lucha Libre matches and stuff on there. It wouldn't be the worst idea at all if they wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
Do you think they could bring in somebody from Tokyo Joshi Pro?
I think they could, but of course that wouldn't be really a difference maker for them, I don't think.
No, with what they're trying to accomplish, I think they have grander aspirations than what Joshi Pro has done. But I think it could be a good, I think if you brought in Miyu, like you could have her do a title match.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. Or Yamashita, you bring her in, the other
Sure.
Miyu.
I'm thinking about they should really be bringing in people like Takumi Hiroha, Yo Momono, if they can.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, like both of those people you named are wonderful wrestlers. I don't know if they're difference makers, but they're kind of like the best you could like they're kind of the best you could get though.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, the Marvelous. I mean, we don't know what Marvelous's status is with any of this. I think they worked pretty decently with Stardom like not that long ago. But,
yeah, right.
I mean, you never know. Maybe they were loyal to Rossy too. Roha was like an original Stardom player as well if they wanted to go that route. I think she could be there for sure. But the fact is, they're going to need some stuff on the Sumo Hall show. Like they can't just run Julia and Sari and then just put a show like we saw in this opening show on that Sumo show. I don't think that would be a great idea. I think they need some bigger and if you have a red belt match on there, like Utami and Bozilla, like they announced, that's a good, like, part of the show. I wouldn't say it would be a drawing match, but it would be a great part of the show, and you could really get people over with that as well. So they could really do a lot of cool stuff on there. But I do think that he has something up his sleeve. Maybe it could be some kind of return, like somebody who's been retired forever has now suddenly come back and is announced for the show. Yuzupon was on Japanese commentary for the show. I mean, I don't know if that's even possible or she would even want to do that, but she did have that match like a year or two ago in Stardom. She made that one-night deal. You've had people come into battle royals all throughout the time. Rossy can make some phone calls to somebody. I could look for that too. I think there'll be some kind of Legends appearance on that Sumo Hall show as well.
Maybe we'll see. It definitely has to be a show that they really load up with different names, different matches, so they can make that. They can really make that a big show.
Yeah.
Good. So much, I guess, for Marigold right now.
Let me ask you something, Strigger, before we move on real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not as, quite as deep in the Joshi scene as me. So I want to know your opinion. Because, with Stardom, even at their absolute peak, you were really not that hot on them, just as a fan. What were you? How's your hype level for Marigold after this first show and talking about it here?
Pretty high, actually.
Yeah, and that's what I think a lot of people felt that way who maybe weren't, deep into the Joshi scene. Maybe they didn't want to sign up for Stardom World or whatever.
I mean, Dylan, what are you talking about? Not being deep into the Joshi scene? I mean, I think I'm deeper than a lot of fans. I watch Sendai Girls. I watch TJPW, I watch Ice Ribbon whenever I can. So I would say I'm fairly deep, but not as deep as you, definitely.
Well, a lot of those are on Wrestle Universe.
Sure.
I think that makes it a lot easier. Like, if a lot of these, and for the long time, though.
Oh, do you want me to watch OZ Academy now? I will.
I did not say that at all. Do not put words in my mouth right now with that. I did not say that whatsoever. But I didn't mean it as a slight. I'm just saying that,
I know.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, I think a lot of people who maybe weren't as into these promotions or maybe didn't follow Stardom intricately have a lot more hype for it. And I do think that being on Wrestle Universe is a big part of that as well.
Yes.
And I think that it helped them to have this great show because the reaction to this, Stardom has had some big shows where you got great reactions, but this felt a lot more widespread to me than even a lot of the big Stardom shows in the past in terms of excitement, at least on the English-speaking side.
It feels like something new. I can't really point out why I feel like that is, but it feels less patterned than a Stardom show.
And it's brand new, so it's kind of like a first step. We don't know where they're going. We really don't know what the pattern even is to even compare it to.
That's correct.
So I think that's a great thing. Again, I think that's a great part of the show and why it feels like a lot of the wrestlers on this show, I think, also take that tact with things going out. It's a lot with Rossy kind of in charge. It's not the Bushiroad influence all the time, which maybe rubs some people the wrong way. And it feels like there's a lot more freedom with the wrestlers now to build something special out of this. I think the fans feel that way, too, where it's like, we are now on the ground floor of this. You know, not everybody saw Stardom in like the Fuka starting the company 2011 like version. And in fact, I would say a vast majority of the current Stardom audience were not around then. And I mean, that's just natural. It's not like there's anything wrong with that. Again, just time moves on. I mean, that was like 13 years ago at this point, 13, 14 years ago. So that's a long time. A lot of people in general, never mind just one company, they'll like wrestling and then get out of it by that time. You know, not everybody's a fan forever. So I think we have to keep that in mind. And now, but this is modern. It's happening right now. Another thing, when Stardom started, social media wasn't like it is now. There was no Wrestle Universe. You know, you had to really work hard, man. I was watching those 19 o'clock shows for Ice Ribbon on Ustream. You know, staying up in the morning. Like, that doesn't even exist anymore, Ustream. So you had to work really hard. This, you don't have to work hard. And you see a bunch of people happy and excited about it, having fun. It's a great vibe right now. I think Marigold's on a real hot streak out of the gate. And I root for their success. We'll see if it remains, because there have been other promotions that have started off, you know, in the old days, having big starts, and they couldn't sustain. I think this has a great shot, though. With everything we've seen, I think they made a lot of great moves, and I think me, you, and a lot of people listening to this are really hyped for Marigold in the future.
Absolutely. Yes. So the hype level really was there. And when we go to the second topic of the show, I have to say that, Dylan, I don't think that the hype level was there for this year's Hana Kimura Memorial show. And I'm just going by the numbers right now, saying that we had the fourth one. We had Matane in 2021, Baggers in 2022, Pinks last year, and this one was Terima kasih, which means thank you in Indonesian. There is no rating for Cage Match right now for this show.
Wow.
And the ratings have drastically dropped off each year. So there were 127 ratings for the first one, 55 for the second, and 19 ratings last year for the show. And nobody has commented on this show yet. And it also drew only 632 fans. That's a bit less than last year, but it's been always around that drawing level. But it definitely looked like a half-empty Korakuen Hall show. I know that they still put a lot of effort and emotion behind that. For example, just in the opener, you had Yuna come out in a costume that resembled Hana Kimura. Maybe it was an original Hana costume from her early days. And they always brought up the history between Hana and the specific wrestlers that went into the matches with videos they put up there. For example, the Dash Shizaku one they did a video on. And for the main event, of course, they had a very emotional video for Julia, but she couldn't wrestle there.
Yeah.
And they also brought up the history in the three-way semi-main there. So lots of history with the Okinawa Lucha Libre match, of course. Okinawa, her mom, Kyoko, wrestled in Okinawa for a long time in Okinawa Pro Wrestling, and Hana was down there with her. So the connection with Okinawa was always there. The connection with Wrestle One was brought up with Seiko Tachibana, with Kuroshio Tokyo Japan, and Shotaro Ashino, of course. The connections throughout the entire scene in this battle royal with Yumiki Hotta, Hanako Nakamori, who was in there, Tsukasa Fujimoto was in there as well, of course, Sakura Hirota, once again, cosplaying as Kyusei, Hana Kimura. So there was still a lot of emotional level to this show. But after 4 years, and we've discussed that after the first show, I remember that we've discussed how far they can go with these memorial shows. And I've said it to you in DMs. I think there is room for another one next year, because next year is the 5th anniversary of her passing.
Yeah.
But it pains me to say that, because these shows are almost therapy for someone that loved Hana Kimura as much as I did. But at some point, I don't think these shows will deliver the level of emotional connection that you had at the beginning of the show series, so to speak. So if I was them, I would call it a day for a couple of years after the 5th anniversary and just do shows whenever the round anniversaries, memorials come up for the 10th and 15th anniversary. I know, and I've said it before, for Kyoko, it probably means a lot to be running these shows, and I'm guessing that she will continue. But if it was me, I would suggest to stop for a bit, because after some of these shows, you've done a lot of matches that have a connection to Hana Kimura, and you've done a lot of main events that have a connection with Hana Kimura, and you don't want these shows to feel repetitive at a certain point. So that would be my suggestion there.
You know, it's interesting because I remember us talking about this kind of subject after the first show, and I remember you saying you had hoped they continued the shows after that. And
of course, yes, the second and the third one were really well received as well. So there was room for more, and like I said, there is room for another one. I'm thinking next year.
Yeah.
But as I said, how much more can you realistically do, right?
Well, you know, after Matane, I think these shows have actually had a really healthy life cycle to them. Kind of.
They had.
Because like that first show, because I remember after that show, I kind of disagreed with you because it was so painful. Like that was one of the most devastating. Like when that lights came on and she was holding that picture of Hana. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like thinking about it, it was like, but it was so tragic and sad. It was like so painful, and I just didn't want that pain like to linger on, even though it's so hard for it not to linger on for Kyoko. And that's always been my main thing with all of these. If Kyoko Kimura wanted to run Hana Kimura tribute shows every single day, I would support them.
Absolutely, I would. It's just my feeling on these, you know.
And like the second show though, by that point I totally realized like that this was a great thing. Like because that was like Bagus was like a celebration of Hana Kimura. It's so joyful and amazing. And Pink's, it wasn't like it continued on, but it wasn't neither of those things where it was so high impact. Like I said, the first one is one of the most devastating shows that I can remember happening in wrestling. You know, Bagus was like a very happy and positive like show that was so inspirational to me. It showed us the power of human healing. Like all of these people coming together after the first show was like so emotional and tragic, and no one can blame them for that, obviously. But the second show was so resilient spirit for Kyoko and all of these friends, and it was just an amazing show to me. Last year's show, again, they didn't have that big emotional outburst like that you saw in the first two shows, but again, I think that's very healthy, actually. And it's kind of a microcosm of life. You know, that we all have to go through these stages of grief with everything we have in our lives. And I've lost people in my life that I've gone through these, like a lot of these similar feelings to get back whole again, because it's like you've lost something and you're missing a part of yourself. And obviously, we cannot possibly relate to Kyoko, who lost her daughter at such a young age. So to me, I think that the shows themselves have kind of like, in their own way, been parts of a stage of the stages of grief that we all have to go through.
Yes, that's right.
And I think it's been very healthy. And I personally, like I said, if she wanted to do them every day, no argument for me. I don't think, like I said, at this point, these shows are just a nice thing at this point. Like there's it's not like they're here to draw big houses or even have great matches. That's not even their purpose. It's just a chance for everybody to come in and keep, because of everything that happened with her tragic death, obviously, you get to keep her name alive in such a positive way through these shows. And I think that it's a great thing for Kyoko, but that is ultimately for hers to judge. I have no positive or negative opinion. If she said tomorrow, this is it, like we're doing one more and that's it, then I would say, okay. Like, I totally agree. And if she wants to do them for the next 20 years, then by God, I'll watch every one of them. Because she deserves it after what she's did, and also Jungle Kiona as well. God bless that woman for all she's been through.
Yes.
So I personally, again, like this show, it's not like it had the emotional impact of them, but it's not even about that anymore. It's about something else entirely. Yeah. So I approve of it personally.
I want to stress that I enjoyed this show. I don't want to say I did not, and I enjoyed the show. I had a good time watching it. I specifically had a good time watching the opening match. I really liked that. Rina and Yuna had a good match there. I loved the fluffy battle royal. That was cute. The hardcore tag match had its moments. The Lucha Libre match was fun with Aja being in there. The three-way 9-man tag was probably the best, like, pure wrestling match on the show. So we had different things on this show. It's just It's not the same vibe as it used to be last year or the year before. But you mentioned it as well. There's levels of grief. So now we are coming together to celebrate Hana Kimura's life. And I guess if that's going to happen for the next following years, I will still watch.
Yeah.
But this was the first one that made me think about how many more you can really do. So.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think there's any the goal of this is purely for the wrestlers involved. Ultimately, they should come together to celebrate this. There's no, like I said, it's not like they're building anything off of this or storylines. It's a show very unique in and of itself, and I think that's good. I think that's good that we've reached this stage of grief, especially for Kyoko. Like I said, and these people on there. But, we'll see what happens in the future. And if they keep doing them, I'll watch them, and we'll both watch them, and I think a lot of people will be very happy to. Another thing that we have to say, too, a lot of these shows were in that pandemic era.
Yeah, Japan. That's right.
So, I mean, that may give even added, positives. I mean, again, we can always speculate, we don't know, but maybe that's a good inspiration for them to continue to help the fans as things grow along. And, even in the world of Japanese pro wrestling in general, it gives everybody a chance to go there. Because, again, there were men, women on this show that were represented in there, and I think a lot of it is for the wrestlers themselves, and obviously Kyoko and Jungle Kiona more than anybody else, in my opinion. But, yeah, that's kind of my feeling on it.
Yes. Good. All right. So much for that as well. Great to have these shows around to be able to cope with the situation. On the men's side of professional wrestling in Japan, first I want to talk about Pro Wrestling Noah's show this week in Korakuen Hall, also drawing a very good number with 1,488 fans.
Hey, hold on a second, Strigga. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but it kind of brought something to my mind that I should have said a second ago, but I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I think in general, memorial shows are good to remember everybody.
I think so too.
Because we're heading on the anniversary, for example, of Atsushi Aoki's death, next month.
Yeah,
and
right.
That's something that's really slipped through the cracks over the years. That the first year they did so many amazing tributes for him and kept his memory alive and for his family, and it was so beautiful. And I actually wish they would do more to honor people like that who tragically passed and things like that. Not just the Hana shows, but everybody in general. I think we should come together to try to honor these people that meant so much and unfortunately lost their lives in this business. I actually think there should be more of that to keep everyone's memories alive of them and make sure that they are not forgotten about.
I think the loss of the Atsushi Aoki Memorial shows is really bad. And I think it's a byproduct of Jun Akiyama leaving All Japan. And them not, it's weird how DDT and All Japan, they sometimes work together, but you'd think that specifically for a big celebration of one's death and life, you would really think that they would come together and just produce a show together, but it's just not happening. And it's a really weird question why they don't do a show.
And that to me is extremely sad.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
For whatever, I don't even care what the reasons are. Like, there's no excuse that you can't put something like this together for somebody who trained so many people and meant so much to junior seeds in multiple companies. And, you know, and he's just one example. You could probably point to others, but just in general, I think those shows are good for the fans, the families, and the wrestlers that knew and loved these people. And most, you know, to keep these people's spirits and hearts, their memories and spirits alive in our hearts. I think they're very important for that. And I think it's something in general wrestling doesn't do a lot of these days. I mean, even in America, there were tons of memorial tournaments and stuff in the past that don't really happen anymore for some reason.
Right.
And I don't know why they stopped it, but I think it's something that's a real shame that that's gone by the wayside.
Right. Correct.
I just wanted to say that before.
I agree. Yeah. Yes, so let's then go to Pro Wrestling Noah. Like I said, good number for them in Korakuen Hall, and we've said it before, since March, these Korakuen Hall shows that they did, they are really all hits. And this one, maybe except for 2 matches on the show, I don't think you need to watch the second match with a GLG going against Oiwa, Inaba, Yunta, and Yu Owada. And the 4th match on the show, Titus Alexander and Cyber Charlie against Kaito Kiyomiya and Alejandro. Except for those matches, I think all of these matches really had something to go out of your way to see. And especially the main event with Kenoh and Minoru Suzuki showed that Minoru Suzuki is still able to have a great performance in the main event. And it was really interesting to see him walk into a Pro Wrestling Noah show again. And he, of course, was designed to be the heel, and he is so good at doing that to perform on this level. And he brought up the crowd against him, and of course the accidental, I gotta think that it was accidental blood, helped tremendously to put this match over. But in comparison to the matches that he works in America, this one felt much more heated, much more hateful, even with him and Kenoh battling around ringside. And also, you saw in this match that he's still able to do these slick transitions from one submission move to the other. And it was just great for Kenoh to be able to wrestle and beat a guy like Minoru Suzuki in the main event of a Noah show.
Yeah, you know, when this match was announced, I had zero interest in it whatsoever. Like, I thought it was like totally an uninteresting match to me. They ended up having a good match in the main event. I personally thought the Ishii and Kitamiya match was like way better. Like,
I agree. I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. And the main event was good. And also another problem with this whole show, to be honest with you, and through no fault of either man in the main event, compared to last year's One Night Dream, this did not stand up.
I thought it was a bad idea to call it One Night Dream.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was no reason for it either.
No.
These two have no history, really, like whatsoever. Like, very minor at best. You know, like, he was around when they had the Suzuki-gun invasion, but it's not like Kenoh was a main eventer in 2015.
He was a junior tag champion guy.
Yeah, it was him and O'Hara as Chokibu-gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
So the main event here is rated 8.73, while the Ishii and Masa Kitamiya match is rated 8.74. And I'm thinking that a lot has to do with the blood in the main event that made the match stand out for a lot of viewers here.
What's up with Kitamiya getting the low end? Because we said this on the last show. Him and Sugiura, like, that match was freaking crazy good.
Dave Meltzer rated the main event 4.5, and the Ishii and Kitamiya match 4 stars. Oh, 5 stars. Oh, 5 stars. I'm sorry. He gave it 5 stars. Is that a 5-star match, Dylan?
Dave-flation has now made its way to Noah.
In the era of 7-star matches, I guess this is a 5-star match.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the thing with Meltzer is, I'm not one because you see these guys online.
I know.
Like, if you talk about Meltzer, it's either you're constantly defending him from all possible criticism, or you just hate everything about him.
Yeah, he's the personification of tribalism right now online.
Yeah, like, he's one of the like there's no room for nuance.
Not that he does tribalism, he's actually affected by tribalism.
No, it's like, the fans are the ones that are either like 100% against him, or they have to defend everything about him. But I mean, there's nuances for him, and I mostly think he's an ultimate good part of the wrestling, in my opinion. But there are criticisms to be had about him. He's not perfect. And definitely for his ratings, I think we've seen in recent years. I mean, for me, there's like the wrestler brain part of me that ultimately sees his ratings as ultimately a promotional tool. Like, and we saw it. I mean, okay, talking about Marigold, Sonny on his Twitter spoke about how much that high rating that Shuri and Utami got meant, like, increased subscribers, like, substantially for Stardom World. It got them so much buzz that they wouldn't have had without Meltzer's help. And we've seen that, I mean, God, we've seen that so many years in the past. I mean, Joe and Kobashi in Ring of Honor, that thing blew up so big because of that 5-star rating. So I've always looked at a lot of his stuff as, like, promotional in their own right.
Yeah.
For something like this now, though, he's gotten to the point where everything's rated so high that if a Noah match got a 5-star rating 10 to 15 years ago, it would like a huge boom, like in interest for Noah. Like everybody would want to see what's going on, and they'd find their way, even if they were goofballs like me that ordered the Hawaii DVDs from the Hawaii Noah office in the past on there. They would find their way to get it. Now a 5-star rating, it's not like this match had this huge buzz about it because it got a 5-star rating. It was really good and a great match, don't get me wrong. But I didn't come away from it seeing all of this buzz online like, oh my God, 5 stars? Like, we got it. Like, everybody's see this.
Everybody's rushing to watch the match, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really get that vibe from this. And it shows you how, in a lot of ways, he has made a great impact in a positive way for companies. But I think his own, like Dave-flation, as everybody jokes about, has kind of made them less valuable than they used to be, these 5-star ratings.
I agree with that, actually.
But it was a great match, though, and I thought the best. Yeah, well worth watching. I actually think 8.74 is actually a pretty good rating from the inmates on that. I'd probably go a little lower on the main event, but I know that, like you said, the blood, the spectacle of it, I just don't get why Kitamiya keeps getting lowballed by these inmates, man. like you guys are listening to this like cage match, give Kitamiya his respect. I know he's not a main eventer. I'm not saying he is, but these matches rule. Like, he's on a run right now.
So for this show, this once again was one Noah show, and that's what Noah has been for the last couple of months, really a variety show of different aspects. You had a match between Ulka Sasaki and Hikaru Sato in the opener, who went really technical, and Ulka has a great finish with, like, it's some sort of a wrist. He has a wrist clutch while at the same time he does a face kick. It looks really cool, actually. Yeah. It's called the wait a sec. The Amatsu Kitsune. And we also had a fun 8-man tag. I mean, I said that you didn't really have to watch that, but it's just a fun match. Then you had the women's match. You had Tomohiro Ishii and Masa Kitamiya. Then you had GLG versus LIJ, of course, building up the Jake Lee and Tetsuya Naito match. So Tetsuya Naito in a Noah ring probably drew a lot of the crowd. I really liked the interactions between Nishiko Takagi and Tadasuke in that match. And of course, then you had a rare special singles match between Kenoh and a guy from the outside in the main. But that, I mean, sure, he won the match. But Dylan, that is also one of the criticisms that I have actually on that show. Masa Kitamiya, once again, got to look really, really good in a match, but Masa Kitamiya lost the match. I know that they are kind of trying to build him up, and he got a big win over Takashi Sugiura. But there have to be guys on this roster that he can beat, because I think that they have something with him right now where he could actually be more than just a mid-card guy. But if you have guys coming in and beating him, I don't think that's really working out for him. You have to have guys coming in that he can beat, actually, in my opinion. And that was what they did with Kenoh. So Kenoh, he's in a strange position in Noah, isn't he, right now? He's not in the main event anymore, or main event level anymore, that he's the GHC champion. But he is still considered to be a drawing card for them, apparently, in main event roles. But they brought in an outsider for him to beat, and not someone within the company. So where do you think Kenoh stands right now in Noah?
First of all, do you know what Oka Sasaki's finisher translates to.
I know that Kitsune is the fox.
Right, it's like the celestial fox,
Yeah.
kind of, which is a badass name, and it's a great move as
really
well. That match was freaking cool. I really liked that match. It was like really cool match there. Great point on all of the like the different styles, like you said, the variety show factor of Noah lately. Really agree with what you were saying there. As far as Kenoh, you could really bridge this out. Now, remember what we talked about in the last episode with this new faction.
Mm-hmm. Rebellion.
How's All Rebellion looking lately? Do you know what they did on this show?
Yeah, they lost.
They lost to Titus Alexander and Starboy Charlie.
Yeah.
The thing is, and I praised you, Noah, last episode. I praised you when I said this, all right, Kaito, new look, new gear, new faction. It seems like they're finally getting serious with this guy. And then you jobbed the new group out right away? What?
Dylan, I have no idea what kink that is that Japanese wrestling has with new factions, but it always feels like that whenever there's a new faction, they lose in the beginning.
And
I don't know why that is.
Even the match the day before with all four of them, they lost.
Yep.
Like they're winless as a group already with the world champion in it. Kenoh did get the win in the main event. So here's the thing with Kenoh, though. Like, this is the problem with thinking of things like that when it comes to Noah. Whether they believe or don't believe him or what they see in him, whether it's the outsider, if not Kenoh, who?
Yeah.
Not Kitamiya.
I want to make one point here because they are clearly. Why does it state on Cage Match that Ulka Sasaki lost the match? He did not.
No, he won.
He won, actually. I'm gonna.
Yeah, we just talked about his finishing move.
Yes, I'm going to add it to that. I think they're kind of hot-shotting Ulka right now.
I thought they were. Remember when they did the tag team with him and Suzuki? I thought they might have them win, actually, and they just like try to really burst him through. I think they really pulled back for a little while, and they're getting there again. I like what they're doing with him, but they're in danger of it for sure. If not everything. They're
on the verge of hot-shotting him, I guess, because
yeah.
He's clearly not ready. You can see that in some situations. For example, the lariat that he did on Sato really didn't work out.
Yeah.
Some situations, the kata worked out well because Kawasato took it well. But he's not there yet. But they want him to be there. And he signed a contract with them. So I fear that they might put him in a big situation far too soon. So he would be one of these guys that you're asking for. But it's clear that, man, Kenoh is one of these guys that have to be on top.
Exactly. That's like with Kaito as champion. It's the same thing. Like, it's not like he had this amazing run build up, like up to it. They gave him like a good month, pretty much, where he beat Kenoh and Jake Lee, the only other two people who are even kind of pushed, like in Noah. So now he is like that guy again. And that's the same thing with Kenoh. He's like one of those guys where there's like no other choice really, because that's the thing about Ulka that's also good. He hasn't had the chance for them to ruin him and job him out and do bad stuff.
Yes.
So that's why I actually think never mind his wrestling, because I agree with you. Like, ultimately, I like him a lot, but I agree with you. He's not ready for a main event spot. But he has something to him, like just walking out to the ring and how he carries himself. I think he's got a lot of potential. If they could just develop him properly, and I hope that they don't fall. Again, I thought they definitely were like earlier in the year when they had the tag team, but they kind of pulled back on that a little bit. And even again, with all due respect, you know me, Strigga. You know I love Hikaru Sato. Like, he's one of my favorites. But beating him is not that big of a deal. I have to say, with all due respect, and I love him a lot. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. But come on, like, we have to be serious right now. So if this is where we're at with him, I think that's a good spot for him on these undercards, getting wins under or over, like, people on the undercard. I think that's a good spot for him personally. But I don't want them to be tempted with him. Like, not that long ago, he beat Kitamiya in a match, right? Like just last month. That plays into your point a little bit, But it also tells me that how little they actually see in Kitamiya. I mean, all of these big matches, like, he's always looks great, and then he just loses. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, that's the thing with Noah in general. Like, I don't think they have really any stars, like, almost, that you can really build behind. And even we talked about it again in the last episode. Wagner, it felt like he had some momentum coming in. Obviously, last year he had a great run. And then what happens? One defense and he's out. Like, that seems to be the rule of this GHC title. If you get two defenses, then you're in prime position, brother, because a lot of these guys, they get undercut real fast.
Yeah, weird position there right now. They have good shows, but I don't know if there's a very positive outlook to the future. Roy Oiwa has said he belongs in Pro Wrestling Noah. That was interesting.
And he's one of the guys, again, that feels like he could have upside for them. I really liked how they handled him, actually, where they basically teased him joining the group.
Yep.
And he was like, "No, screw that crap." He just beat the crap out of Kaito and Kenoh. I thought he really looked like a star. And he has it. Like, him, he's got the look, he's got the skills, he carries himself great. I think he has a great future. Like, whichever company, if he were to stay in Noah, he could be a top guy. If he were to go to New Japan, I think he would be one of the top people in that company, in my opinion, right now. So I really like Oiwa a lot. He's another guy that they should probably do some things with. And even if he's going to go back to New Japan eventually, so what? Like, he's still one of the best guys you have now. Use him now while you have him.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
Yep, I can't add more to that opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, the rest, it's all old guys, like, pretty much.
And Gabe Kidd.
And Gabe Kidd, yes, challenging for the belt. I mean, at least they did give him the win over Kingston.
Yep.
So that gave him something, and they have a little bit of history. We'll see how that pays off, but I mean, that's an interesting trade. I mean, New Japan gets Jake, and Noah gets Gabe Kidd.
It's interesting that Gabe Kidd is not going to be on Dominion for New Japan, but he's going to be on Star Navigation for Noah on the same day in Tokyo.
Oh, we'll get to Dominion. And I got some comments.
Kaito Kiyomiya and Kenoh versus Gabe Kidd and Jake Lee. And a Maxka's return match, teaming with Yuta Miyawaki against Alejandro and Cristobal. Oh. I see another loss for All Rebellion.
Yeah, All Rebellion losing again. Taking another L.
So much for the Rebellion.
That's so weird how, like, of all the teams to put together, it's like War Dogs and the good-looking guys.
Yeah.
On paper, that's like the total opposite ideals almost. But they gotta have somebody to team with, I guess.
They gotta have somebody. All right, so Pro Wrestling Noah, that is it for them. We are in the middle of the best of the Super Junior right now, Dylan. We are 8 days into the tournament. We had the last show in Eden Arena, Osaka, and on the 22nd. And when this show comes out, you will have the next show coming up, day 9 on the 26th. And this runs all the way through June 3rd with the semifinal. And, of course, the final is going to be the main event of Dominion in Osaka Joe, main eventing above the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And with that announcement, I think it's crystal clear that they can't put anyone but Hiromu Takahashi in that situation.
And he was going to be in there anyway, to be honest. When you look, like, the whole story, honestly, of this tournament is really basically him. Like, coming into it. They got a little bit with Kushida starting off hot. Mm-hmm. But, like, they're not going to put him over Hiromu. Like,
no.
To get there. I think that, and plus it's very funny because a lot of people were like, there was so much talk about the Evil getting the title shot. And then it's like, he's not even in the main event. like that's how little that they believe in him, actually. So someone has some sense in New Japan, but it's a big risk, like main eventing with the juniors here. Because, most of the time they have their own show, like the final, to be the main event on, and that's it. Like, it's the juniors. And then maybe the title match would happen at Dominion, like with the winner going after it. But this time, there's a main event of Dominion, the first time. I think ideally, this to me was an obvious plan all along for Moxley. And I kind of raised the talking point on the Patreon, which, by the way, please subscribe to the Patreon because I review all of these matches, like on the Best of Super Juniors. And that's not easy sometimes. Some of these shows are really not that exciting. Let me tell you.
There is a lot of middling matches, and I gotta say, they blend so much together. There's really few matches that stood out to me that I could really point at and say, this is the match that you need to watch. I mean, of course, everything that El Desperado did, that's an easy one. Except for that.
We'll get back to the tournament in a second.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out that please support me and my sanity.
Please support Dylan. Yes.
But I made a point on there, and I would like your opinion on this. Because we talked about Moxley as champion a lot. And I kind of got to thinking, from this very start of all of this, I said taking the belt off Naito was stupid. Like, Moxley should not be the champion for that reason. But when you consider that they got to draw that big house in Chicago, they clearly value him as a draw in America. And we kind of talked about on Dontaku, those shows didn't draw that well. And the first one was very poor, but even the second one was below average for sure. And by all intents and purposes, Moxley and Evil should, maybe they'll shock us all. It'll be a huge number.
We'll see.
But by all on paper, that's a very below par main event in terms of drawing power. Do you think it's possible that? And when I look at it this way, it makes a lot more sense than the way we were talking about it before, saying, oh, well, maybe just Naito will get the belt back at Dominion. My argument for that was, why take the belt off Naito at all? Like, the only thing that can happen in that is that you draw less for Dontaku than if Naito was the champion. You cannot tell me Naito would not have done better in that main event than Moxley. I'm sorry. But is it possible, with the juniors coming up, they had this planned out to main event with the Best of Super Junior final at Dominion, that they've more or less, I don't want to say like get thrown in the towel for these next couple of months, or last couple of months, we're almost to Dominion now, but that became less important than the almighty US dollar that they decided to go after with this Moxley run to do a huge show in Chicago and very profitable, much more so than they would make in Japan. Is it possible that was the plan for this all along?
It's of course possible.
And I mean, I don't have it's not like we have the New Japan sheets. Kadani is giving us inside info here. We can only speculate. But that to me seems a much more reasonable explanation than really, just because.
Yeah, really doesn't seem like that there is a lot of focus on Dominion being a big show for the heavyweight title if you throw in Evil. I mean, they don't have any big matches announced so far on this card.
No, we talked about the full card that was announced before, and it's a poor show. Like, let's just be honest about it. And very uninteresting to us as fans. But even from a drawing perspective, it doesn't look. Maybe this New Japan Junior, the Best Super Junior final, will be a big deal. But I'm skeptical.
I'm skeptical too, because I mean they do solid numbers for the tour. But those are. I mean, the Nagoya show had a great crowd. Nagoya, 1,596 fans. It was a good crowd. They are in the 800 and 600 range for most of the shows, but it's the junior heavyweight tour, and you're supposed to headline one of the biggest shows of the year then with that. And I don't really sense the hype that's coming up from that tournament. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
They just ran this show the other day, the last one, the Night 8. Mm-hmm. They did Eddie on.
Yep.
And they basically got outdrawn by Dragon Gate last week by like 100
that's
people.
Right. That's correct.
They're not drawing that well, like in this tour. Like a lot of these shows are very small, like that they're in, and that's how it always is, like with these tours. And I will see. Again, maybe they'll pull something out of the hat for that to make it a big deal. But when you look at it, you look at what Moxley brings to the U.S. side with Forbidden Door as well. You get to increase that, maybe get some avenue for later favors from AEW for their U.S. shows, perhaps. When you think of it that way, I think this title reign makes a ton more sense. Because what they're doing in Japan, this title reign actually totally sucks. And actually doesn't help anything. And it's not Moxley's fault. He's facing Narita and Evil in his matches. I'm not blaming him for it. But let's just be real about it. This sucks. And the product is not good. Nope. The roster, we've addressed its struggles numerous times this year at this point. And now they're putting the juniors in the main event of the Dominion, so over the world title. So it's a really rough state of affairs, like long story short, of New Japan right now. And this tournament is not electrifying any of the fan base that I've seen. Maybe to some people.
I'm just looking at the cage match ratings. I mean, there is few matches that really stand out. And I mean, just like I said, I can point to those. El Desperado versus Titan was a good match. Probably the show.
Him versus Fujita was the best match of the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure.
So far.
Absolutely. I agree with that. So Desperado had a lot of good matches. Yeah, the Fujita one has a rating of 8.04. That was the best match of the tournament by far. But there's a lot of stuff that's rated between 4 and 6, and that's really where the tournament is to me. And then there was the horrendous Hiromu Takahashi versus Show main event on on day 5 in Hachioji. I mean, Dylan, what was that?
The thing is, Show, he's like, you got to throw his matches out, like, pretty much.
Sure, but I said it to you in DMs. I enjoyed what him and Doki were able to do in the main event on the last show, where they brawled all around the arena and used the dumpster there too. That was fun.
Well, that's the best. Like I told you in response, that match sucked as a match.
It did,
but as a goofy, they leaned into it so much that it became fun. Like, they went so stupid with it that it became like something that you could enjoy. But as a match, I wouldn't say it was anything above the other ones, in my opinion. But all of his matches, they all suck. Like, he's by far the low point of the tour. And it's tested. It's not his fault at all. Again, I don't care who was doing this gimmick. It's not going to work. And we're seeing that. We've seen it before. There was no reason to believe we were going to get anything different than what we... And that's the worst part of these House of Torture matches, in my opinion, is that there's absolutely no hope for them to be any different than anything we've seen many, many times before from these same people.
Yep.
But to your overall point, I don't... if you look at a lot of the reactions to this tournament, it's negative. Justifiably so. Your point was factual. There's not a lot of great matches in this tournament at all, or even really standout ones. There are also, outside of Show, and occasionally Blake Christian, there's not a lot of bad. And he's actually...
That's correct, yeah.
And he's actually done a lot better. Like, that first match with Connors was
he's drastically improved in comparison to that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's actually gotten a little bit better, from where he started. There's a lot of good, but not great in this tournament.
I like
and not
the Desperado match.
Yeah, Desperado, you could point to any of his matches.
Yeah.
You probably like him. That'll be who you point to. But, there's not a lot of standout stuff going on right now for sure. I like some of the performances from some of these people in the tour. To me, though, there's a big weight hanging over it ever since they announced this was the main event. I don't think there's any possible way I would be stunned if that final is not Desperado winning his first tournament over Hiromu. The way he's performing like a guy who knows he's about to get his big win.
Absolutely, yes, that is true. Yeah.
But that match does nothing for me. Like, I'm so uninterested in those two wrestling under any circumstances. And I know that in this particular case, that's the thing, for as big of a win as they'll try and make this and tell me it is for Desperado, he literally beat Hiromu, ending his record-breaking title reign before he could break the record.
And lost the title right away.
And lost the title right away. So how can I get invested in this go-around? And that match wasn't even that great, in January. It was good, but it wasn't like a match of the year. They had one great match, in my opinion. Their first final, which was very special and amazing, and then they just keep doing this over and over and over. And it's the same problem I had with Hiromu and Taiji Ishimori being the final of the block. It's like we've seen this match so many times. There's not really that many more routes they could go. And if you're a big Desperado fan, sure, you can get emotional about him winning the tournament for the first time. But it doesn't mean that much to me personally. So that kind of as a black cloud hanging over this. There's no way they're going to main event this tournament with someone else. Like who would they possibly main event this show with?
Yeah.
Not Hayata.
Not Hayata. Not Titan. Not Black Christian.
They would dare put Hayata in this main event. Before they announced it as the main event, I did think that was a possibility. Like that they could just like put Hayata in there as a foil, like as a champion, but there's no way that's gonna happen now. Like it's gonna be Desperado and Hiromu.
Yeah. And we have Kushida, Robbie Eagles at the similar level as Hiromu Takahashi. Not gonna happen.
And another thing about that, speaking of Christian that you mentioned, there was so much outrage over him getting these points. It's the same booking we've seen.
It's so incredible that people get rallied up by that every single year in every single tournament.
It's the same crap. Like somebody wins 4 or 5 matches in a row to start off, and then they lose out. Like it's the same thing. Like here, it's like what are we doing? Like what are we doing here, my friend? On that end. But anyway, so I had no fear over him winning the tournament or anything like that. He's like a trope. Like I kind of say this about Evil. Like he's not even a wrestler. He's a trope, like or a collection of them into one body. And that's the same thing with this. He's just living a trope right now. Unfortunately, for me, first of all, I don't know how this will play out, but with Akira right now.
Oh, that's so tragic.
Yeah. That's another thing that's really dampened my interest in this tournament. Because for a while, I was kind of defending it. If you listen to a lot of my reviews on Patreon, I'm looking at these cage match ratings and I'm saying, I like this a little bit better than the Inmates did. Which is rare a lot of the times, but for a lot of these matches, I thought, that match was pretty good. Like, they kind of underrated it a little bit. But then, something about the tournament there's nothing exciting about it, and I kind of just want it to be over at this point, because there's no hope for really special matches going forward. Maybe we'll get one here or there.
Yeah, I'm looking, we have Hiromu Takahashi versus Robbie Eagles coming up.
Let me tell you something, Strig, before you continue on.
Oh no!
No, that one. What are you going to say now?
Well, Show and Taiji Ishimori. Oh man!
Like I said, any show matches, they're all the same to me.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of opponents. So that will be terrible for sure. But what I was going to say, let me tell you something about this Eagles. This guy, him and TJ in the A block. When I watch them, like my wrestler eye, glows in appreciation for those. Like they're so good, and like everything about them, not the moves, not even the psychology. Like every little bit they do, like every move they make in the ring, their footwork is impeccable. Like their timing is so amazing. Everything they do is logical. I just love Eagles' style. And he's been a real standout to me. And TJ in the A block, he's the guy that's kind of the opposite of Christian, where he lost a lot early on, and now he's getting his wins back as we go along. That's another trope. And I think they were going to do something like that with him and Akira, but with Akira's injury, I think that's out the window.
I think one of the most important matches that TGP had in this tournament was putting Kevin Knight over. That was a great match.
Yeah, I've really been impressed by him because last year I didn't think Knight. I came into that tournament. Remember, they had that great tag title match with Kushida and Kevin Knight where they won the junior tag titles.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, Kevin Knight, he's about to show everybody. And then his tournament was like, not bad, but mid-tier. Here, I think he's showing a lot that he didn't have last year in this tournament. I've been really impressed with Kevin Knight in general.
Yep. So, generally, what do you think has gained the most from this tournament so far?
In A block, I was something I was a little surprised by. Maybe they'll rectify this, but I mean he's eliminated already, so he's not going to win the block. But I thought they might do a little bit more with Kosei in this tournament, but
I wasn't expecting him to be any better points wise. Actually,
you thought he'd be last?
Yeah, I mean he's a junior, he's a young lion coming into the tournament, so him getting 4 points is pretty good at this point.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that, but he has stood out. I guess you're right. I guess Kevin Knight would be the A block guy that has gained something. I think he's looked a lot better.
I'm leaning towards him too.
It's a minor.
I think that Clark Connors has gained a lot too. It's not really my style, but the match that he had with El Desperado really turned some heads. I saw on Cage Match and I saw on Twitter as well. So I think he gained something too.
I think these are minor gains, to be honest with you. You know who I think actually gained a lot? I think it's not because I kind of figured this was going to happen, actually, because we already knew that he did it in Noah. But I think Ninja Mac has really gotten over with this New Japan audience. And I mean, he's so easy to like get into, like just such a great, like he's like one of the perfect undercard wrestlers. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say he's like Robbie Eagles is like great at everything. Ninja Mac is just fun. Like he's just so easy to get into. I think he's done a great job, and he's a guy too where it doesn't even matter how many points he gets because he's just like in his own zone almost. Like all of his matches exist in their own universe, and I like what he's doing, and the fans obviously love him overall. But again, I don't really think they've built anyone up in this tournament so far. Maybe they'll lead to that. We haven't seen the finals yet. Maybe, like, imagine if Doki made it to the semifinals. That's somebody we can immediately point to. Like, okay.
Doki is so great, man.
He's a wonderful wrestler, too. Very talented. And that's kind of the weird part about this whole tournament. Like, these names, there's a lot of great wrestlers in this tournament. But the output is not matching the talent level for whatever reason here. I would say, in a weird way, Kushida was like the most fun guy to follow through this earlier part, and I think he's going down now, unfortunately. But I got really into seeing him get these wins because he was so in the dumps. He wasn't even going to be in the tournament, and now I thought he wrestled with a lot of great fire early on. But yeah, overall, like you said, ho-hum tournament. Not a lot in terms of match quality, but I think we also would say the man who gained the least in our eyes was Dragon Dia.
Would have been my next point.
Yeah.
The tweet I made about him got a lot of traction. A lot of people commented below.
You are a tastemaker, Strigga.
And the comment that I got the most is, hey, he inherited Ryosuke Taguchi's tournament.
And that's true. That is true.
And yes, that is true. But that is not my point. I mean, I don't need people telling me what I can see with my own two eyes. I'm sorry about that. Man. So I can understand that. What I cannot understand is Dragon Gate agreeing to that. That is something I really can't understand. And what I cannot understand either is, look at this block B. There is guys in this block that really don't mean a lot to New Japan Pro Wrestling as stars. For example, Doki. You have him in this block. And Kushida, they haven't done anything really within the last couple of years either. So Dragon Dia going 0-6 in this block. And you can't tell me they could have gotten 2 points from any one of those guys that will in the end finish the block with 6 or 8 points. I mean, that doesn't make a difference for the end of the tournament. So they could have done that, but they chose to have it that way. And he still has Ninja Mac, Kushida, and Show left. And what people are looking at right now is maybe he's getting the big win over the junior heavyweight champion, and that might be true. I don't know. By the point of that show, this show is up, we will have known.
Yeah.
But I don't think that this was a good idea to put him in the tournament if you have this result, because Dragon Gate really looks bad having this guy in the tournament. He developed a new finisher for this tournament, and everybody immediately started kicking out in the first match that he was in.
I hated that. I said it in the last episode.
So infuriating. And people also came at me and said, yeah, maybe he looks good. He's so beloved by the fans, and he could be brought back next year and have a better tournament. There is no guarantee for that. There is no guarantee for that at all, because who knows what the Japanese wrestling scene looks like next year.
That's a good point.
Nobody can say that. Nobody can guarantee that Dragon Dia is being brought back. So for me, this is an overall negative, him being in this tournament.
Well, I think that point about him being brought back totally ignores years and years of history.
It really does.
Of people being brought in for this tournament and not seen again. So I don't think that's going to happen at all. But to me, and to be honest with you, those names that you listed, I think he could beat any one of those names, to be honest with you. And I think that's the thing. If he goes 3-0 and wins out on those, maybe his tournament looks better.
Yes, it does. It does, really. That's what I initially thought, and maybe it's still happening, that he will end the tournament with 6 points. And then I would track back a bit from my opinion right now, but him going 0-6 just looks awfully bad.
I think he'll beat Kushida.
I think so, too.
The other two, I'm kind of skeptical of, to be honest. I think he'll get that win over Kushida, and they'll try and make it seem like something. And who knows the show? Like you said, I don't really want to get into it because it'll already be out. But that we get into it. But the thing with him, though, Strig, you got to remember when Lindemann was in the tournament?
Yeah, I know.
When he was the champion, and we had all these arguments, and I was like, I hate this, and he was the champion at the time. Let's be honest,
Lindemann didn't go 0-6.
No, that's true. He was like 7th place or something in the block, which is still bad because he was the champion, in my opinion. And this is where I point on Dia. Yes, he is winless and not getting pushed at all. What has he been doing in Dragon Gate?
That is another point. Yeah. Why? I mean, he hasn't even been pushed in Dragon Gate. He's been the lost post in most of his matches. So it was a choice for Dragon Gate. And maybe they sacrificed a guy that they just don't do anything with anyways.
And what a shame that is, because he's so talented.
It is a shame. He should be much more higher up. And Dylan, just on this day that we're recording this show, he actually pinned the Bravegate champion.
Well, see, now that causes more problems than I would argue. But you kind of said it. Like, in their minds, they might see this. And the same thing with Great, when Lindemann was there. Mm-hmm. They clearly did that. They didn't just do it for no reason. They thought that he gained something from it, from being in there. I don't agree with that. I think history has shown that he really didn't gain anything from it at all. And I don't think Dragon Dia has gained anything from this either.
Lindemann ended the tournament with 8 points. That's way, way better than Dragon Dia.
But where was he in the rankings, though?
Sure, I mean, he was middling, I guess, with 8 points.
Yeah, so it really, he won, but no, it's not like it matters. Like, none of those matches mattered at all. And I don't think any of these matches matter. Like with Dia. My issue with him isn't even the record. It's that all of his matches are 5 minutes. Like, how is he going to get so over and impress everybody when he's got these litany of, like, goofy 5-minute matches?
Yeah.
So, like, what has he done in this tournament that anyone will remember?
Nothing.
And that's the thing. Like, he didn't gain anything from it. I don't think he necessarily lost anything from it because he was already at a low point.
It was very low,
yeah. So, but maybe this was, like, some kind of vote of confidence from DG that they think that this did something from him and maybe they'll get behind him, which would be good because he is one of the best that they have, in my opinion.
It once again shows what can happen when you're from another promotion coming into New Japan. You're being big leagued. And
I think, again, I personally expected that to happen.
Did you expect him to go 0-6?
Well, again, we haven't seen the tournament end yet. Even if he got, I would probably have had him at about 4, like, going in.
Yeah,
and I
think 4-6 would have been realistic to me. I wouldn't have gone 8.
Yeah, I think 8 would be a stretch. Coming in there, and we'll see what happens. So overall, again, so I'm not going to completely bury it, but your points are all, like, not wrong. Like, I agree with you on paper. It's just the difference between him and Lindemann is Lindemann was the champion of the promotion. Dia's like a super undercard guy, as it is. And hopefully this will mean something, just the fact that he got to be in front of these different crowds. But again, like I said, Dragon Gate outdrew the New Japan show last week. So it's not like he's in front of way more. That's another thing people need to recognize with the current scene of Japanese wrestling. it's like New Japan's not at their apex where they're so far ahead of everybody. Like, they are ahead. We saw it in the Sumo Hall show that Noah did last month. That was like half of what the April show for New Japan did with Naito as champion, for the record. But it's like New Japan's not exactly lighting up the scoreboards right now in terms of drawing power. I don't think that he gained that much personally, and maybe we'll see in history that this will have proved me wrong, and maybe he will get a ton of popularity from it. But I think the only thing he's missing is a push in Dragon Gate. He didn't need this tournament to get that. But at the end of the day, too, another thing we have to remember, he was a substitute, and that kind of tells you something that this probably wasn't a super well thought out decision. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm,
It happened on the fly, and they just said, "Oh, Daya." Who knows why they did it? Maybe they just said, "Oh, he's good. He can do what you want. Oh, we can job him out. It doesn't matter. He's not that important right now." Or, hey, maybe he can grab some new fans for himself and the company. It could have been any one of those reasons. I just don't know if any of them are true, ultimately. And unfortunately, his performances have been... Well, it's not his performances. His matches have been disappointing because they've been so short.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is ultimately it. And ultimately it also for the tournament. I don't think there's anything more we can address, or we want to address, actually. We could address more.
Do you disagree with my take that Despy and Hiromu was the final?
No.
Do you think that, who could it possibly be to main event?
Titan.
He was in the final last year and is a wonderful worker.
Yep.
I would love that.
I mean, the Hiromu and Titan match last year was great.
Oh, yeah, that match ruled. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that match was a great match. I think it has to be Hiromu out of B Block. I just can't see it in these other guys. Man, what a turn. And again, like I said, I'm at the point now, because it's so overwhelmingly likely that Despy and Hiromu is the finals now that they've announced it as the main event. I'm just not that into any of this. I just want it to end and let's get to the final. And that match will probably be a really strong match. It'll be a great match. I just don't have any interest in seeing these two go. That
is ultimately it. Yeah. One more talking point, Dylan, that I have. We could get that off quickly, I guess, at the end. The card for the United Japan Pro Wrestling show in Sapporo from the Hokkaido Prefecture Center, Kidayel. And it says here, actually, it is live available in English on a beamer in America, the Philippines, South Korea, and Thailand. How about that?
All right, let's check that out, people.
It says America/Philippines. Why did they point it out like that?
Very intricately connected countries, very close by to each other, actually, as well. Only about 12,000 miles or so?
The biggest ocean in the world between them.
Yes. Yes, but I know a lot of people from the Philippines that have a special place in my heart. So, big love for the Philippines, and Thailand, another great place there. South Korea, what's the deal with this? Who chose these countries specifically?
So let's look at the card. Kosei Fujita, Robbie Eagles, and Zack Sabre Jr. from New Japan go against the Noah team of Okazaki, Hayata, and Yu Owada. We have Asumi against Starlight Kid from Stardom. On the third match of the show, Bishamon, Hiroki Goto, and Yoshihashi go against Daichi Hashimoto and Daisuke Sekimoto from Big Japan Pro Wrestling. Fourth match of the show, Tetsuya Endo from DDT, Roy Oiwa and Shota Umino from New Japan Pro Wrestling go against Katsusa Eguchi from DDT, Great Khan, and Jeff Cobb from New Japan. That looks like a fun six-man tag. Once again, the presidents count together. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Naomichi Marufuji. They go against the Just Five guys. Sanada is back in action, of course, also. And he teams with Yuya Uemura. Then the rematch. I'm guessing Masa Kitamiya could get a win over Ishii now because Ishii has a 2-0 record above Masa Kitamiya. So it's Ishii versus Kitamiya again. Match number 7. It is LIJ versus GLG. Where do you stand on the LIJ versus GLG feud?
Well, it sets up the main event.
Yeah. It's actually a mix of GLG and War Dogs.
Yeah, I made that point earlier. Why are they teaming together? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't make any sense that Jake Lee came into New Japan and wanted to team with the War Dogs. So
None of this makes any sense
So
whatsoever.
it's LIJ. It's all of LIJ minus Naito against Rilla Maloney, Clark Connors, LJ Cleary, Anthony Green, and Jack Morris. This card, yeah, it's an interesting assemblement of more multi-man matches.
Yeah.
All Rebellion! There we go. Alejandro, Kenoh, and Kaito Kiyomiya go against Gabe Kidd, David Finlay, and Yohei. I see All Rebellion losing once again.
Oh, yeah, they're definitely doing the job here. Like, it's the only question is, will Kidd pin Alejandro or Kaito himself?
I think he'll pin Kaito.
I mean, the thing is, again...
It's the day before the championship match.
Yeah, and he's a weak challenger, overall, in the kayfabe sense. Like, he needs to be built up a little bit.
He needs to be, yeah.
Why is Yohei in this?
He's the remaining guy from GLG.
Oh, okay.
Sure, he has to be. The good-looking War Dogs.
Ugh.
Main event, Naito and Jake Lee.
This is the only match that matters on the show. And even then, I mean, it's just really weird. Like overall, that's my only take on it. It's not negative. I think this isn't a direction I would have anticipated, which is a good thing. Again, for them. Yeah. This company desperately needs new, places to go with their talent. Looking at this card up and down, there's so many New Japan guys on here. What was the purpose of this United Japan thing?
Yeah, I've said it to you when we started discussing off the air. There was a tweet from Kidani just yesterday where he said, quote, "The Japan Wrestling Association was established based on the idea that the industry should unite to solve common problems in the wrestling world, like health of wrestlers, second careers, etc., and in the event of unforeseen circumstances like corona, natural disasters, etc. When there are requests from the government, so they are united to answer to the government for whatever, I don't know. We believe that the show is a byproduct of the association and that it had a certain effect in making people aware of the association. So they are calling the events a byproduct. But what else is this United Japan Pro Wrestling Association doing right now?
They're united.
United in the fact that All Japan and TJPW can't be on the show.
Yes, that's what they've really united against. They've made sure that All Japan will not be on any of these shows, as well as
Ganbare Pro.
And Ganbare Pro as well. Yeah. So all of those are out. Dragon Gate has a pretty big tour at this time as well, which is another thing they promised us wouldn't happen with these all together shows, that we would make sure to not
Tanahashi lied to us.
Oh, no.
We're at that point.
Yeah, I mean, and really quick, we're 2 shows in, and it's happened twice so far. So it's not like they put really any effort at all to try to live up to these words, clearly.
Imagine they put effort into that. Oh.
And that's the thing. I mean, they're clearly just banking on Naito for this. Where is this at? What venue is this at?
The Sapporo, the Kitayel Center that they run the G1 Climax usually.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's a little step down from last month's show, but still.
I mean, it's still a big building.
Who knows? They might end up drawing more this time with Naito in the main event. To me, that's at least that first show had no funny matches on it at all, or even interesting ones, unless you're interested in them as wrestlers, pretty much. This is at least an actual match of some interest, like Jake and Naito, and Naito's a huge draw. So if they did a great number here, it wouldn't completely catch me off guard with Naito in the main event. But otherwise, it's like they didn't learn anything from all of these lessons. And if anything, it's worse because, like I said, it's just New Japan and Noah. Outside of a handful of guys, like Endo,
Sekimoto, Hashimoto. Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 guys total, that were not in New Japan or Noah. And Higuchi is also there.
Higuchi's there.
And you got the Stardom
match.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. That's the United Japan Pro Wrestling Association.
That might be one of the best matches on the card. That Azumi and Starlight
women's match, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But it's at least a step in the right direction with the singles match in the main event, because like we said last month, the days of the multi-man tags and just...
I guess that's the lesson they learned.
Just have a singles match in the main event?
Have a singles match.
And it's Naito, like the only real star like that you have to draw from, like ultimately in Japan, like the true star draw. Let me ask you a question, Strigga, because this show is really uninteresting. I would say, first of all, do you think that this Jake Naito thing will end here, or will it go to something more?
Yeah, I'm still at the point where I think that Jake Lee is winning this match to be in the G1.
I think he's going to be in the G1 as well. So I can easily see that happening.
And my opinion hasn't changed on that.
Yeah, and I agree. One last thing. What if you were put in charge of this and you have infinite resources in terms of the companies, like they're so desperate they will do anything. Like anyone can job, they'll make any match you want. Your only goal is give me the best possible match out of all of these companies you could have.
Wow.
What would it be from a business standpoint? Like what would be the best singles match that you could have to draw for one of these all-together shows? Because to me, there's like an obvious one for me.
There is?
Yeah. I think the only match that I would say would mean something like that would be Naito versus Kenoh.
I was going to say Kenoh, and I was scrambling for another guy, but Naito.
Well, the thing is, it's impossible for it to... Like, Naito is so far ahead of every single person in the draw, he absolutely has to be in the main event in that scenario. I was thinking a program... Maybe they could do a longer program that involves like Kento, Naito, Kenoh, and a fourth guy maybe. Nakajima.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, they're doing their best, but there's not a lot of big matches that they can really bring out onto these things. So I think this is about the best they could do overall. But the card itself could have been a lot better.
That's where we're at.
Exactly.
All right, Dylan. It was great to do the show with you here after your shift, coming up your shift. Hope you're feeling all right 2 hours into this show.
I'm fine.
I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed talking about these promotions. Specifically, the Yoshi aspect this week was very strong. So, yeah, it was good.
And me too. And I'm so happy that you had the answer that you did about Marigold, that you're so hype about it. Because like I said, I saw a lot of that happening online, and I was very happy to see it. Because I think like a lot of these wrestlers here, they deserve a lot of credit. And I think that they deserve a lot of accolades. They're coming in, and hopefully they can have some big matches. Yeah. Again, even though like as a match quality, I wasn't as high on that show as a lot of other people, but as of like the overall grand scheme of things, it was like perfect, like a perfect first step that they could have had. So really happy for that, and thankfully we have all the listeners here once again. And you are right, I did come off of a shift that was like 12 and a half hours. And it's like 10:30 a.m. and I haven't slept. So if I sound even goofier than usual, that is why.
I want to say you don't. You don't.
I'm always at this level, Strigga. As I said.
You're always goofy.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I've never changed throughout the 8 years I've been on here, and I'm never going to change. You get the Dylan experience every episode. And most importantly, I'm very happy that we got back so soon, too. I think we're making it up to the fans, so I appreciate that. And hey, we're going to do a lot of cool stuff in the future. We got big shows coming up. All Japan has a Triple Crown match show coming up with and EC3 is in Japan.
EC3 against Ryuki Honda. Yeah.
That's right. They've got that coming up. You've got the Dominion show coming up. We've got a lot of fun stuff in the future. So we're going to have a lot more to talk about real quick. Hopefully you guys tune in, enjoy it, check out all the stuff we're doing, and just let us know what you think too. I love seeing all the opinions from the fans. To talk about everything. We really appreciate you guys, and we want you to know it's not just lip service. Like, we really like what you have to say. So thank you guys so much, and I cannot wait to go again next time.
So much for the Eastern Lariat for now. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.